This is the story of a girl. A girl born with a birth injury known as brachial plexus or Erb's palsy. Erb's palsy is when the nerves that connect the spinal cord of the neck to the nerves of the arm are stretched too far. When these nerves are injured, the child is unable to move the arm normally. This is the story of a girl who will face the rest of her life with this disability. A girl who lives a life fighting with her arm rather than fighting against it. This is the story of Elena Doheny and her life with her little hand.
Hello, I am Elena Doheny and I have Erb's palsy or brachial plexus.
Hi, I am Maria Doheny and I am Elena's mom.
Erb's palsy is kind of like, well, it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of like all my nerves are jumbled up in a big knot and they can't really get undone.
Elena has brachial plexus palsy, which is also called Erb's palsy. And what it is a branch of nerves, like a bundle of nerves in the shoulder. Those nerves are a bundle that's connected between the spine and the rest of the arm.
So my brain can't signal much through my nerves, only a little.
So when she was born, her neck and shoulder were hyperextended, so it stretched those nerves. Like if you think about a saltwater taffy, if you have a saltwater taffy and you pull it apart, when it comes back together, it's never quite the same. That's what it's like.
Like my wrist is kind of paralyzed, I guess you could say. I can't really knock. Like I can try, but it just doesn't really work. And I can't really make it because then my arm goes flat out. But yeah, some of my two fingers here are, I guess you could say, kind of paralyzed because they don't really move. I mean, I can put them down, but they just go up and they just kind of stay like that.
So when Elena was born, she had no movement of her arm at all. And as she develops, there's certain things, that infants can do. So reflexes. So Elena's arm didn't have those reflexes. For instance, when they're infants, they always have their arms up like this. And in all baby pictures, you'll always see that big head and two arms, two little hands like this. So in Elena's, it's just the one hand because this arm was down at her side all the time. As she got older and the nerves started to decide whether or not they were going to innervate muscles, infants have what's called the archer stance. Okay, so if their heads are this way, their arms are out and this arm's in. And if their heads are this way, they'll do this. This is a reflex. And she obviously couldn't do that. And that helps in developing vision and reading skills. She was delayed in pushing herself up. She had some delays in, and it wasn't cognitive delays, these are just physical delays. So her brain knew that she wanted to push herself up, or that she wanted to crawl, or that she wanted to balance, but even though the brain was sending signals to the nerves could not send signals to the muscles. So that causes those kinds of delays and compensation. So she had to compensate and do things differently than, a typical child her age.
With this injury causing delays, medical interventions were key to the development of Elena's arm. Medical procedures include castings, arm braces, surgeries, and physical therapy.
So, some of the medical interventions Elena has had to endure are castings, immediate castings from the time we first had contact with the doctor and the neurologists. That's to keep her hands in a neutral position, and it was to keep her muscles from, I guess, atrophying and contracting. So that's some of the things that she's had to have castings. And they would be constant because, you know, babies grow fast. So she would always be back and forth to the occupational therapist or the hospital for cast fittings. So that was the first medical intervention.
Well, I'm not really quite sure how many they were. I'm pretty sure that it was just 2 or 3 surgeries in one big one. And what it really did was it mainly just, I'm not quite sure what it really did. All I know is that they went in my arm and like they, I guess, checked stuff, but I'm not really sure what they did, honestly.
And when she was 6 months, when we were seeing Dr. Cozen at Shriners Hospital regularly, it was kind of a wait and see because there's a considerable amount of inflammation around the nerves. So we had to wait for that to, repair. So then we would also monitor as to what extent the nerves would be coming back. And so Elena's movements would kind of dictate what road the hand surgeon would go down in terms of helping her. So that she was scheduled for a surgery that would take nerves out of her ankle and graft them into her shoulder. So it was kind of like making a bypass off of a turnpike. So it was a very, it's because she's an infant, it's this microsurgery, it's very involved. And, you know, she was just 6 months old. So she was scheduled for the surgery because she still could not raise her hand above her, raise her shoulder up or raise her hand above her head. So this is, and she couldn't bend her arm at all either. So this surgery would help her be able to do that, the nerve transfer. The night before we were getting ready to take her to the hospital, and it was a really bad night with the rest of my kids. Like, they were all crazy and I was very stressed and worried and scared. And I yelled at them and the house was a mess, and I went in to my room and I got down on my knees and I said a Hail Mary, and I just consecrated Elena to the Blessed Mother, and I asked her to protect her and, you know, just protect her with her mantle for Elena's surgery. And also that night, my husband, Bill, Elena's dad, he went to Mass and he was at, the Blessed Sacrament, also praying and asking that everything goes well. And so we got her up early, and I couldn't nurse her because, you know, she was going to be under anesthesia. So we got her up, we took her down there and got her prepped for surgery, and the doctor came in to carry her back to the operating room, and she bent her arm. And so the surgery was canceled, and that was our miracle. So she didn't have to go through that surgery, but that is a story we like to tell because it just tells of Elena's tenacity and her little attitude. She's always had it. So anyway, the next surgery she had was when she was 3, and she still could not turn her arm down. She still could not raise her arm above her shoulder. She could bend her arm, but she couldn't raise it up above her shoulder. And she cannot turn her hand into her, center. So she had to get a tendon transfer. And basically what it is the doctors go in, the surgeons go in 3 different places and take the tendons and move them around to force the hand down and to enable her to raise her arm up. So she had that surgery, and she was in the hospital for a couple nights, and she was in a funny looking cast for a while. So after she got her cast removed, it was a body cast that came up here with a big bar. And when she got that off, she had to, for the day at the hospital, we had to hold her arm up like this because she wasn't allowed to put it down, because there was an incision under her arm and incisions here and here and here. And because it was the tendon that runs all the way up. And so then we had to go there every day for physical therapy for that surgery so she could do all the movements. And so after that surgery, she still cannot turn her hand down. So in that part, it was a failure. But in another way, she can lift her arm up, and that was huge because she could wash her hair. She could put her arm up to get dressed, whereas before she couldn't do those things. And she still can't bring her arm to her center. So, Elena still can't button her pants easily or any of those kinds of things.
My mom and dad told me about this surgery that I could get, but it was my choice to get it or not. What it would do is, see my arm, hold on. See, my arm is just laying flat like this, but what it would do is it would turn my arm over like this.
So the next surgery that is suggested for her is a big long word I can't pronounce, but what it is where they take her humerus and they put it on the other side of her arm. So it's kind of like turning it upside down and around so she can turn her hand down and be able to use it, because all of the functions that people do require your hands to turn down. The only one that you need for your hand to turn up is eating and to care for yourself after going to the bathroom. But every other function that you do, riding a bike, playing the piano, a keyboard, driving, requires that you turn your hand down. So this surgery will ensure that she can do that. But Elena has chosen not to do that surgery, and we are respecting her choice for that.
I personally don't really want to get the surgery. I'm not saying this because I'm scared or I just don't really want to get the surgery. I think I don't need it. I mean, even though I may do some stuff differently and some stuff may be a struggle for me to do, I can get through it easily and it's fine. So personally, I don't think I need this surgery. I think that, I wouldn't say a waste of money, but I don't really think I would need it. When I was younger, after my surgery, I had to go through different stages of physical therapy. So what they would have me do is simple things, like simple things for you, but hard for me, because I can't really touch my belly button, and so that's what they would have me do. I can't really touch the back of my neck without help with my other arm. So yeah.
So Elena had to visit initially a neurologist, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, and an orthopedist who specialized in hand and arms and shoulders. So we would see them regularly, and then it became apparent that we would really need to focus her care with the hand specialist and an occupational therapist. So the occupational therapist, we would initially go down to Shriners Hospital in Philadelphia, and they would show us the different exercises we needed to do for Elena, and then we would do them at home mostly. And the hand specialist would just monitor her range of motion and just watch her for a while before he decided what he wanted to do. And then she gets put into the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. So you gotta request that physical therapy through them or occupational therapy through them, and then they come out to your home. So we didn't have to drive down to Shriners Hospital anymore. So then we had an occupational therapist coming to our house initially, I'd say 2 to 3 times a week, and then just once a week after I learned how to do all the exercises. And she would teach Elena, she would teach Elena to have an awareness of her arm. Because what happens is when the babies are developing, if this arm's not being used and the signals can't get from the spinal cord, to the nerves, to the muscles, so the brain will not realize that that arm is there essentially, and she wouldn't use it. So we had to have her be aware of it. So she had to, we had to hold it up so she could see it. She had to use it in different ways, and so we did this for years. We did this for 5 years, I would say. And then we would go back down after she was 3. We had to go down to Shriners Hospital and do that.
Despite how the doctors tried to normalize life the best they could for Elena, she still has to approach daily tasks a little differently.
Well, things that I do different from regular people is when I ride my bike, I have my handle, I hold it with my left arm, but with my right arm, when I hold it, it's kind of different. Like, I can't hold it like this. I can't really turn my wrist, so I have to hold it like this, like on an edge, like that. And then I put my hair up differently. I tie my shoes differently.
Elena has learned to work with her hand in her daily life as well as her daily activities.
Well, I play basketball and softball, and I'm going to be doing swimming this year. I'm so excited. Differently, I bat the same way any other people would bat. When I catch differently. See, when I catch the ball, normal people take the ball out of their glove and throw the ball, but I don't do that. I catch the ball, I go like this and take my glove off. I take the ball out and throw it. I mean, it may seem complicated, but I can do it really fast in time to get people out. And it works great. Okay, when I play basketball, wouldn't say I catch differently. I mean, I catch kind of normal, but when I shoot, I shoot with one hand. I go up, and that's it. When I do swimming, I don't really swim differently as well. I mean, I just kind of go with it. So yeah, I use both of my arms. Personally, I don't think my arm slows me down in any sport or any activity I do.
While this injury doesn't hold Elena back in her activities, does it hold her back from making friends?
I wouldn't really say a lot of people question about my arm. I mean, some of my friends do ask, like, how come your arm is so stiff, or how come it's always like that? I mean, I just explained to them why. I have brachial plexus or Erb's palsy. I explained to them what happened, and yeah, I mean, sometimes people like give me weird looks and are like, oh, and then they think it goes straight to their head. They think it's a disease, but I mean, it's not a disease. You can't get it. I can touch you with my arm, and you're not going to get it. It's just a birth injury. So a lot of people sometimes think that it's a disease, and it's really not.
Hi, I'm Anthony Schappe. I live next to Elena, and we're best friends. No, it is not any different with Elena having Erb's palsy. I did not notice Elena having Erb's palsy when we were little.
The truth is, no one ever really notices that Elena has Erb's palsy. Maybe it's her exuberant personality. Maybe it's the love and support from her family and friends. Maybe God simply illuminated her very presence so much that it's the last thing a person would notice. Whatever it is, Elena makes sure that she is at the center of everyone's attention, not her arm.
In having 5 other children who have no physical disabilities, Elena having a physical disability, she probably is feistier, stronger, more resilient than the other children. I don't know if that's because of the disability or if that's because of who she is. I don't know if one begets the other. But I have always carried with me a level of guilt and responsibility that she has this disability, but I also think that this is part of her story. This is part of God's plan for her. So whatever my responsibility is in that is part of my story. And it's wasted energy for me to feel bad about that, especially when I see, you know, the phenomenal girl Elena is.
This world makes you crazy and you take it all you can bear.
Me and Elena will be best friends till we both die.
See your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let it show. Your true colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Can't remember when I last saw you laugh. If this world makes you crazy, you take it all you can bear. You call me up because you know I'll be there, and I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let it show. Your true colors, true colors are shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. Your true colors are beautiful.
When I was younger, I used to call my arm Little Hand because it was smaller than my other hand. See? And yeah.
Like a